say, by the way, tonight's game, New York wins that outright.
Erik and Gino, Sunday we scheming. NFL dreams while the TV beaming. Gridiron gurus, deep in statistics, parlays and spreads, no room for pessimists. Game day hustlers, bets on the line. Analyze the field, it's money time. Sharp like a tack, breaking down plays, riding the highs, no fear of delays. Quarterback sneak, defense mount the tough. Red zone blues or 2-minute bluff. Gino got the over, Erik on the spread, cashing out tickets, numbers in our heads. Every snap, every pass, got him on the edge. End zone dance, hedge fund on the pledge. From the coin toss to the last hurrah.
What is up? Welcome to NFL Betting Blitz for November 3rd. How is everyone doing? My name is Erik. I'm your host, and we have a special guest today, my boy from the Santa Anita Sports Spot, Bryce. Bryce, how are you doing today, my man?
Doing good, man. Doing good. We're already basically halfway into the NFL season, which seems kind of crazy to say, but it's been a fun ride so far. And both our teams, we're looking pretty good right now. Can't complain. Can't complain at all.
Hell of a win by those Rice Owls yesterday. Nice little plus 328. So let's talk about your boys. Obviously they don't play today. Game coming up, hosting Tampa. You do have a lot of injuries, though, but it's kind of hard to
piling up
because you're 9-0, or you haven't lost yet. So, where's your head at with the state of the team and everything?
Basically, and I say this to start off the year too. It's for me, if we have a healthy Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Chris Jones with Andy Reid and Spags, I don't put too much stock into the injuries. Now, obviously, you don't want to see all your players go down, and we've seemed to hit a bit of the injury bug this year. But I feel like that's a little bit of injury regression because for the past couple of years we've been relatively healthy. So I figured this year we would kind of get hit a bit by it. But yeah, it's just next man up, and the culture they built over there in Kansas City for this entire Andy Reid tenure. Next man up always steps up, and we seem to be able to figure out a way to get it done. I like the addition of DeAndre Hopkins. That's someone I wanted 2 years ago before he signed the deal with Tennessee. I thought he would have signed it then, but he's made his way to Kansas City, and I think he's going to he's going to provide major dividends for our offense because just watching some of the tape back last week at the Las Vegas Raiders game, I don't think what people realize is he literally got to Kansas City on Thursday. You do the installs on Wednesday for the game plan that week. So he didn't have much to go off of. They had a few packages for him that they could put in this week with the full, week of practice plus the extra day since we play Monday. Expect DeAndre Hopkins to look, get a lot more looks. Patrick, can start looking his way a bit because he was getting open on a lot of routes. I think we'll be good to go if we can get I heard we're getting Pacheco back possibly within a couple weeks. Charles Omenihu, Uche, we just signed him, so we look like we've been battered by injuries, but we're looking to be a little bit more healthier within the next coming weeks, so that should be pretty exciting.
Kareem Hunt is the lifeline of my fantasy team right now, so I do not want Pacheco to come back at all. Great kid and everything, but I do not want Pacheco back at all.
I just want him back because we literally got Kareem Hunt off the couch, and literally since the first game, it's like, okay, Kareem, run the ball 20 plus times. And we only run inside. I don't know if you've seen the stat, but we're like the best interior running team. But it's not like we're getting explosive runs. It's everything between 4 to 9 yards per carry. And I saw another graphic. It was like a explosive runs chart versus negative runs. Kareem Hunt has no negative runs, so he's gonna fall forward for at least a yard. But he has no explosive runs over 10 yards.
That's literally all I need from Kareem. You know what I mean? I just need a little run, man. I just need a little run. So we're gonna go game by game. We have a best bet. Each of us have a best bet. We have a kind of a head-to-head bet because we have different lines. But we'll get to that game in a little bit. We are gonna start off with the Denver Broncos going to the Ravens. Lines around 9.5. What say you, my friend?
Yeah, this one I feel like it's just gonna be a battle. I expect the Ravens to win, but I expect this one to be a little bit closer. than most people are expecting, or at least the lines are expecting. Denver's got a top 5, maybe top 3 defense. They're playing really well. The big question mark for me is I've only seen Bo Nix really perform against terrible defenses. Now, Baltimore does have the worst secondary in the league, so they might be able to throw it. But if they're able to get pressure on Bo Nix, what is that going to look like? Is he going to turn over the ball? Because you can't turn over the ball if you want to keep this game close with the Ravens. And then I'm expecting the Ravens to get back to the bread and butter of what they've been doing all year. That's run Derrick Henry and, go based off of that. Last week, they kind of got away from, I think Henry finished the game with like 11 carries. And of course, every time the Ravens lose, everybody goes back to, well, why aren't you running the ball? But then when they run the ball and they lose, well, you paid Lamar, like, why can't he be the guy? So, I mean, everybody's on both sides of the fence with that one. But if anything, I kind of expect this one to go under. I don't expect this to be like a shootout or anything. Over under is 46.5. I'm leaning towards the under, and I take Denver plus the 9.5 points here.
What should we expect from Johnson?
I don't know. Like, it's weird because, like, so we've been talking about it a lot on my podcast. I'm like, the Ravens, like any NFC team, the Ravens, like, take the points, take them ML, whatever you got to do, like whatever it is, because they usually blow, NFC teams out. I think what's the crazy that Lamar's like 22, 23-1 now versus NFC. And then versus the AFC last week, they're playing Cleveland, divisional opponent. And I think that's Lamar's like worst opponent in the AFC. And Chris actually took the Ravens the points. And I started to say something. I was like, nah, I'm going to let you have your bet. I was like, I don't know about that one because Cleveland coming off, Deshaun Watson, now Jameis Winston starting. So, like, I feel like the Ravens, they should want to bounce back. They're what, 5-3?
Yeah.
They lose another one. They're probably they won't be out of it mathematically speaking yet, but it'd be a very low percentage that they could even get the first seed or get home field advantage at that point because the Steelers are playing really well right now. And so, I think it's hard to get DBs in, free eight or not before the trade deadline. But I like the move. I was actually a big proponent. I wanted the Chiefs to kind of maybe go get Deontay Johnson if we couldn't get like a Hopkins or Cooper. And so I think he'll pay dividends. I just don't know if we'll see those right away. It kind of just gives them another safety outlet because I'm in the mindset. I don't think Zay Flowers is a wide receiver one necessarily. I feel like he's more of like a 1B or a number 2 guy, but he's been thrust into the number 1 role just given their wide receiver corps. I think Deontay Johnson can be a man beater and he can help, when Lamar's escaping the pocket, get open, just give him an extra outlet valve. But I think they got to go back to the bread and butter, and that's Derrick Henry. So.
Zay Flowers is too small in my eye. I think he's way too small. Knicks at the Ravens, how is that going to look against this defense? But then you look at the analytics the stats, excuse me. Ravens defense is bad this year. Orr has done an awful job taking that defense over. They give up the most passing yards per game and have allowed the most touchdowns to opposing wide receivers. Jackson, 42% against the number as a favorite at home. Payton, 59% as a road dog. Ravens defense historically bad, as we both mentioned. 18th DVOA, allowing the 17th most yards. Can we trust them laying such a big number? That's the question. I know that people would say it's a bounce back spot for the Ravens, but teams after being 7-point favorites or more, losing on the road, coming home, are only 43% against the number the last 20 years. In terms of sides, I really have no idea what to do there.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I just stay with the under possibly, but I don't know.
I will say this, though, in DFS, Ravens do give up the most passing yards per game to opposing wide receivers. Sutton, 8 for 100 last week. Sutton could be a DFS play.
And that pisses me off because I drafted Sutton on my fantasy team. Which we haven't got to talk about fantasy, but the podcast league we're in, it has not been good because I had Achane and Hill. And so I was literally at 1-5, I think, and Sutton wasn't producing. So I literally dropped Sutton off my team to pick up Kareem Hunt. And now he goes off, and I'm like, man, I've been waiting for this literally all year, but it hasn't been providing anything for me. And like, there's been a couple games where he's either got 2.0. What was it? The New Orleans game, he literally got 0 points.
Yeah, like, 0 targets. He literally didn't even get the ball thrown his way.
I'm like, he's the best wide receiver on the team. Like, what is going on? I don't understand it.
By far. Next game. Raiders are hosting the Bengals. Line right around 7.5. Any opinions here?
I think the Bengals blow them out. Last week, Raiders had their Super Bowl. They went all out, tried and beat my Chiefs. As you know, they
covered. They covered.
They did cover.
They covered.
And that they covered because they were playing their absolute hardest. You know, they had the recipe. Lots of smack talking going on between Crosby. You seen the little incident with him and Hunt talking during the timeout break and then dapping it up. But I feel like they exerted all their energy, you know, trying to beat us because that's like they know their season's basically over with. There's no playoff hopes really. But if they beat us, then, you know, it gives them something to hang their hat on. Losing that game at home, now you're going to Cincy versus a desperate Cincinnati team that literally cannot afford to lose another game. And I believe T. Higgins is back this week. I think this one's not even close. I think Joe Burrow, it's like a 4-touchdown day for him. And then the Raiders, you start talking about, I mean, should they fire Antonio Pierce maybe? I know they just hired him in the offseason after doing well as an interim coach, but there's also a reason you usually don't hire the interim coach to be your head coach following that season. And I think those discussions are going to start picking up more and more as in the next coming weeks for them.
I kind of feel, because I had high hopes for the Raiders this year, I fell for the Antonio Pierce Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
remember when I came on and you told me that, you're like, hey, man, watch out for the Raiders.
Their defense, like, they just started dropping like flies. You know what I mean? Like, everyone just started getting hurt. I Hate Some Lakers comes on. Do they draft Sanders or Ward, the Raiders?
I
think Dion would, like, just hear me out. Now, granted, I don't know. I've never met Dion, but from what I've heard, I don't think Dion is going to let his kid go to a place like a Cleveland, like a Carolina. I think he's going to want him to go to kind of like, I'll use the term glamour city. And when we look at these teams that are going to need the quarterback at the top tier of the draft, I think that's the Raiders.
Yeah, and I don't think he would let him go either, even though, like, how that exactly works is that, you know, tampering, whatever you want to call it, I don't know. But,
well, see, like, you're a young pup, dude. Like, many moons ago, Eli Manning did it.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, they did not want him to go to San Diego, and that's why, like when people were taking offense to the whole Bronny LeBron stuff this year draft, I was like, that's definitely happened before. Like, people do this all the time. Like, is it right? No, but it happened. So, like, we can't get mad because I was too young to, like, know of it. But coming up, just watching football, I definitely learned of that, and how Eli Manning was basically like, don't draft me because I will not come play for you guys. So there's no point in doing it. So, hey, if Dion can, you know, work his magic and do that, do it. But at the same time, I'm like, Sanders, like, I joke with, I've made this joke on the pod sometimes and just in our group chat, like, I don't think Sanders got any of his dad's athleticism. Like, I don't know whichever mom it is, but he must have got her athleticism because he's not mobile at all. He struggles to get outside of the pocket. I'm just like, in the NFL, like, nowadays, these defensive ends, they run 4.4, 4.5 40s. Like, if you can't, you know, escape the pocket in the league today, like, you become kind of irrelevant. I just don't know. Like, I think he's got all the arm talent. I think he's got the smarts, all of that. But I don't know. I don't know if he's got the athleticism to last in the NFL, at least today's NFL, especially with the O-lines and stuff. Like,
I mean, I think he'll be a better prospect than Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward's got some major holes. I'm not the biggest Cam Ward guy. All of it depends on the offensive line and the coaching. I really feel at the end of the day, that's kind of what it depends on. And we look at what's going on this year and the rooks coming in and the coaching that they're getting and everything compared to other coaching stuff, it's kind of night and day. Do we trust the Bengals laying this big number here? The Bengals 25th defense. Can they generate the stops? Do we trust the Raiders? Look, we mentioned Pierce. Pretty much a lot of lame duck coaches there because I feel they're going to be gone. Even some guys on the roster, but that could motivate them to put some stuff on tape, hopefully catch on with a different franchise. I'm not a Minshew person, but he does give them the better chance to win. As bad as the Raiders are, they still have Crosby going up against the Bengals' 27th graded offensive line. It looks like Ford is going to be starting, and he's one of the worst offensive linemen in the league. Maybe Crosby will be able to get the Burrow a little bit. Flip side, who's going to stop Chase?
Yeah.
Raiders graded worst coverage in the league. Situational spot maybe for the Raiders with the Bengals having the Ravens on deck and the Bengals needing to win out. Bengals lack of pass rush, give Minshew some time. But Getsy's calling plays for the Raiders. Zamir White is 100 times better than Madison. But Getsy gets this thing where if he doesn't like you, he's going to go to the guy he likes more. And he obviously likes Minshew more. Look, I was texting you and bitching about the Raiders last game. I feel I got that one across the board. I don't want to do anything with the Raiders traveling cross country. Sometime the best bet is no bet. And that is what I am doing here. Next one we're going to. We got the toilet bowl. We have the Patriots traveling to the Titans. Line is 3.5. What say you, my friend?
I kind of with Drake May coming back. Like I've been watching him. I'm really impressed with him, and I honestly think, like, had he been able to start from the very get-go, I'm not saying it would happen, but I think it would be more. He would definitely be in the running. Like right now, rookie of the year combo is just Jay and Daniels, Caleb Williams, basically. Bo Nix has kind of come on here strong a little bit lately, but it's really them two. I think Drake May, if he would have started from week one, I think he would have a good argument to be the rookie of the year. He looks really good, and that's not a good Patriots team. They don't have a good offensive roster around him. But compared to what we were seeing with Jacoby Brissett, and Drake May comes in and he throws for over 230 both times he started. And then obviously a couple weeks ago he goes down with the concussion, so he didn't get to play that whole game. But I've been really impressed. I would lean Patriots here. I don't think the Titans are really good. I think they're basically in free fall. And I mean, would I take a promising rookie and the Patriots who seem to play a little better with him behind center versus Mason Rudolph and the Titans? I'd go Patriots here. I'm gonna stay away from it, but I would lean Patriots. I like what Drake May has looked like over there with them. Does Browers? He's
second in the league in receptions. Second in the league in receptions.
He should, but these awards, they're gonna give it to the quarterback. Like if it wasn't just a quarterback award, essentially, Brock Bowers deserves it 100%, and he's honestly been the best rookie. Because that's second in the whole league, not just for rookie standards. He's been balling, but I just know they're gonna give it to whichever quarterback finishes the best. And I kind of hate it, but I understand it.
Now, let me ask you. Let me paint a scenario for you. I'm at my canvas painting a scenario. Ravens' best record in the AFC. Derrick Henry runs for over 2,000 yards. Can he win the MVP? Or do they give it to? I don't think they'll give it to Lamar back to back.
They can't. And honestly, I think with the way, because Lamar has had a really good year, but I think especially now with the record, like the thing that helped Lamar so much last year was the fact that they were the number one team too. This year, with the way they're playing, I don't expect them to finish first in the AFC, and they might not even finish second or third.
Well, I'm just saying if they finish first.
Oh, if they finish first,
and Henry has over $2,000 on the ground, do we see a world where a running back wins it?
I definitely could see that, because honestly, like they want to make it a quarterback award. What quarterback truly deserves MVP as of right now?
Oh, Jared Goff, come on, dude.
I get it, but Jared Goff, it doesn't help his case where he can throw for 85 yards and you put
sunshine himself, man. Come on, dude.
He's been playing amazing. He has. he honestly deserves to be in the top. I said it on my podcast. I think what's gonna happen this year, as long as the Bills finish top 2 in the AFC, they're gonna find every reason to give it to Josh Allen, even though I don't think Josh Allen, like stat wise, yes, he's been playing good, but against the good teams, he's been his absolute worst. But he beats up on, the tomato cans or whatever you want to call them. So, but I think if Henry's gonna get 2K, then yeah, he should get it.
Big Shefty this is one reason I like doing the show right now is because Shefty always tweets out the inactives. B-Rob, no Brian Robinson for the Commanders. Ooh. Expect a heavy workload today for Mr. Austin Eckler against that Giants defense. Next game, my friend, we are going. Oh, no. I'm sorry. I bet the Patriots here. I got the Patriots at plus 3.5. I have a rule. When two bad teams play, I like to take the dog. Last 20 years, teams with a winning percentage of 250 and less are 46% ATS. When they play another team that's 250 or less, 41%. No, sorry. When they play another team that's 250 or less, 34% ATS. This year and last year, teams after they played the Lions are 39% against the number. Now, I know everyone's going to be like, well, Erik, what about teams after losing by 35% are 61% ATS the next game? When they're favored at home the next game, because they're usually dogs because of the buy low, sell high stuff, that number drops down to 39%. Pollard hasn't been practicing this week. Ridley hasn't been practicing this week. Like, what is going on here? This team lacks weapons as is. Ridley, the last 2 games, 24 targets, 13 receptions, 185 yards. Patriots are 30th DVOA defending the pass. Even if he goes, Gonzalez is going to take him out. Who are the other weapons? Now, if he doesn't go, Gonzalez is going to be eating against Nicholas Westbrook Akiyah. You know what I mean? They have no weapons.
They have nobody.
Spears is hurt. So then it's going to be Chestnut, the rookie, who's not quite ready for prime time. Can we trust the Titans to win with margin? This Titans team has done nothing to show me they can be trusted. And from what I've heard, Callahan is starting to lose the locker room.
Dang, already?
How he's handling everything. There should never be a world. We're in 2024. Mason Rudolph and Will Levis should never be laying over a field goal and trusted to win with that margin. I'm on the Patriots here. Give me the 3.5. Next game, my friend, Saints going to the Panthers, excuse me. Line 7 on Bet Online. What say you, my friend?
I stay away from that. These are 2 of the worst teams, if not the 2 worst teams in the league. I faded the Saints last week. Chargers laying 7 at home. I was like, yeah, this Saints team. I mean, I think. And honestly, as a Chiefs fan, this is just me having wishful thinking. I want the Saints to lose this game so they can realize, for whatever reason that has taken them to this point, you have to enter a rebuild. Fire sale, fire sale, fire sale. And then, in the matter of doing that, trade us Marcus Lattimore, since we're struggling with cornerback 2 right now. Because it's literally only him, and I think it was Kamara until they just extend him. But there's only a couple players on that team that they could offload and generally create some cap space. If they get rid of Lattimore, they're able to create 10 million cap space. Everybody else is just on the books and they're hooked for it. And it's like they've been prolonging this rebuild for years and years and years since the Drew Brees time. And it's like, y'all aren't going anywhere. And like me and you talk about all the time and joke about, Dennis Allen is not a good coach. Mm-hmm. And you pair him with a terrible team, I don't know what you expect. No results are coming anytime soon. And so, but on the flip side, they're playing the Panthers. And this is going to be just the battle of mid, as the kids would call it these days. This is just 2 completely garbage teams. And it's a game that could honestly, they could take this one off Sunday Ticket. They could put this on ESPN Plus or something. I don't know who's going to be wanting to watch this one at all.
So, have you heard my analogy of the Panthers?
I haven't. What's your analogy for the Panthers?
The Panthers are like a nanny with double D's. You just ignore them. That's it. You literally, You don't look at them. You just ignore them because all you're going to do is get into trouble. And that's what I'm doing here, completely ignoring this. I do feel that you need to take a stand in DFS because either Olave or Kamara are going to be going off here.
Yeah.
I would lean toward Olave just because Carr is coming back and there is no Shaheed. So I expect Olave to get the majority of the targets. And the most fight the Panthers have shown all year was last week. After the game, when Horn got in the that was the most fight they've shown all year. This team is, I know there was that team with the Lions where they went 0-16, but that team at least fought.
Yeah.
This team right here, this team is so dysfunctionally bad.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is they're off. They do have some pieces. They just it's just so bad. But anyway, nothing there. Next game, we have a little bit of a head-to-head, but we got different lines here. We have the Cowboys going to the ATL. Tell us why you like the Falcons here.
Because, man, I just, and I said it from the beginning of the year, I was like, this Cowboys team is not good. And with each passing week, it seems like that locker room is just losing confidence in Dak Prescott. Whether, they'll come out and say the right things, like, Diggs and Parsons will come and defend it. But I don't know if you've seen their podcast last week. They didn't even put Dak Prescott in their top 10 quarterbacks in the league. And they were already talking about Jaden Daniels might be top 5, and that's a divisional opponent. They like Dak, like they were mentioning quarterbacks. Like, oh, they're in argument for, like, he could arguably be top 10. Dak Prescott's name did not come up one time, and that is their quarterback. And with every interception, you come to the sidelines, the camera pans to CeeDee Lamb. He looks fed up, even though he's not playing his best. Their run game is literally non-existent. The only hope for them,
no Zeke this week.
The only hope for them is the fact that the Falcons defense, while they got a good secondary with Bates and Simmons, they don't seem to generate any pass rush whatsoever, even though that was supposed to be one of their better units of the team. So maybe Dak can, deal with time back there in the pocket. But I think Kirk Cousins, I don't think this should be a Kirk Cousins game, but they might be a Kirk Cousins game, so I don't think they'll be able to stop the pass game either. I think the Falcons are going to be able to run all over the Cowboys. They have not been able to stop it all year. I don't see why this week would be anything different. And then once you start running the ball, they'll start pressing. I expect Dak Prescott to turn over the ball at least one time a day. Kirk Cousins might turn over the ball one time a day. I expect this one to just be a shootout, honestly. I think the Falcons can win it, but I think this one's going to be high scoring. It's either going to go Falcons jump on them early, blow them out, and then, of course, the Cowboys in Cowboys fashion, make it a game at the end, give their fans hope, still lose. Or this one's just going back and forth, all, just one of those barnyard games, just scoring galore. So
usually, like, my new thing this year has been like a t-shirt bet when I go head to head with somebody, and the losing side, like, you get it. So 2 weeks ago, Jim and I had one at our college show. I had Akron and he had Eastern Michigan. Akron covered, so he sent me an Akron Zips t-shirt. Now, I was going to propose it here, but I don't want a Dallas Cowboys t-shirt. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want a Dallas Cowboys. So maybe we'll do a beer bet here or something, but I just don't like this Falcons team. I can make an argument that they could have a losing record here. Only have 2 wins.
I would argue the same with you. I don't like them either, and I'm not a believer in Kirk Cousins, but they keep winning, so I keep having to listen to Cam on the podcast say, hey, I'm telling you, they can be good. I'm like, bro, they're not good. I'm like, they win games, so yes, I can't argue against it right now, but I'm telling you, if you watch this team, like, I'm still not even sure Kirk Cousins should be playing tackle football. Like, he cannot move at all with that Achilles.
One of my fantasy leagues, like, I mean, Jesus, I had to, like, there's no, like, I'm in this league and people hoard quarterbacks like no other. And I waited to draft a quarterback. I got Aaron Rodgers. Okay. He sucked. Got Justin Fields. He was doing great. Got benched. Somehow someone dropped Robinson. So I got Robinson. Even though Robinson shouldn't be starting in my eyes, he was still putting up over 20 points. He got benched. So now I got offered a trade, and I had to trade for Kirk Cousins because I literally had to do it because I had no other
quarterback.
I needed a QB1, and like it was literally that or Bryce Young. So I use this site, and it shows like bounces, luck, how lucky a team has been. It says the Falcons have been the third luckiest team this season with the bounces they've gotten. Dak, after a loss, 55% against the number. McCarthy, 56% against the number after a loss. Cousins as a favorite of 3 or higher is 48% against the number. Falcons run zone coverage at the second highest rate in the league. This is the coverage that CeeDee Lamb does have his most success against. And I kind of feel watching the game against the Niners, and I don't understand why more teams don't do this. McCarthy kind of got a light bulb. Hey, you know what? If we just give the ball to CeeDee Lamb all the time, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what? Like, whoa. So I think Lamb's in line for a good game. On my podcast, which comes out every single Friday, I have this DFS lineup, and Dak is the quarterback we're using in our lineup. So that way it's a way to get CeeDee's production, but not paying up for the CeeDee price. Falcons going in the season, one of the worries that I had, Amari Cooper not active today. One of the worries I have was their offensive line. Lindstrom, who's the Falcons' best, exited the game last week against the Bucks with a knee injury. Don't know his situation yet. Diggs back for the Cowboys. That's going to help this defense insanely. You mentioned the Falcons' pass rush, and they haven't been getting to the quarterback. Lowest pressure rate in the league, which is great for Dak because Dak's not moving well, and he's going to be able to throw back there. I think this is games just comes down to whoever has the ball last. Both these teams, and the funny thing is both these teams have reliable kickers.
Yeah,
you got Kim and Aubrey. I think that CD is going to be the best player on the field, and I think Dak is healthier than Cousins. I think you have the best quarterback. I don't trust the back four of the Falcons. And I think CD's in line for a huge game. So I'm going to take I'm doing it, man. Taking the Cowboys. Plus, and I hate it. I hate the fact Cowboys.
Yeah, last week I think it was Cam bet Cowboys +4 versus the 49ers. And as soon as the game started, he immediately texted the group chat. He's like, honestly, I'm gonna lose, and I don't know why I put why would I ever put money on the Cowboys? I was like, I was wondering the same thing, but again, I just asked for y'all's picks. Y'all do y'all's own thing, and I just mark it up on the sheet and send it out to all the followers. I was like, yeah, I just can't trust this Cowboys team. And it was funny because I got a lot of friends, being in Texas, a lot of friends that are Cowboys fans. So after that week 1 blowout of Cleveland, they're all like, oh yeah, defense is real good, offense is good. I was like, bro. Like, y'all, I get it. You're happy because week 1 went so well. It was like, this team is not good. You were all in and you added literally nobody. You don't have a running back, one, and you have no other receivers besides CD. If someone takes CD out the game, what is Dak going to do? And, ever since Dak went down with that broken leg a few years back, he can't run anymore for whatever reason. He's not mobile. I'm like, defense, you have a new defensive coordinator, so that's going to take time to gel because you now have Zimmer, and it's like Micah Parsons, what's he going to be doing? Then he goes out with injury. Lawrence goes out with injury. It's like you couldn't stop the run with them. You weren't generating as much pressure. Like the Cowboys, their success, I feel like the last 2 years was directly predicated on our defense is going to get to the quarterback and force turnovers, and then we'll capitalize off that. When you can't force the turnovers, they're always going to be behind. And I'm just like, this year it's been the same thing, and except they don't have the turnover luck either on their side. So I'm like, I just can't side with them at any point. And it pains me because the same way you feel about the Cowboys, I genuinely don't want to bet the Falcons. Like, yeah. I bet them one time this season, and it was versus the Seahawks, and they got blown out. And I was like, should have seen that one coming just knowing them. I'm like, this one, like, versus the Cowboys, like, I'll take it because they're at home, and I just don't like how the Cowboys look this season. And I think the Cowboys, they messed up because Jerry paid Dak, and paid CD. I thought going into the year, I thought they were perfectly set up. Like, hey, we run it back. If it goes to, shit, we enter semi quasi rebuild or full rebuild. It is what it is. But no, Jerry waited to literally an hour before kickoff of game 1 to make Dak the highest paid quarterback in NFL, the highest paid player in NFL history, and give CD the max, and you still got to pay Mike. I'm like, now you're basically screwed. You just put your franchise in a chokehold for the next 2-3 years, and it's like, these guys can't win you games on their own. So you just have to hope you have success through the draft. And so I'm just fading the Cowboys from here on out.
Inactives: Levis, T. Higgins, Zach Moss, Jeremiah Burton, Amari Cooper, surprise there, Brian Robinson, DJ Shark, Deontay Foreman. Actives: May Pollard, Xavier Legette, Trayvon Diggs, Zach Martin, big for the Cowboys, excuse me. Joey Bosa, Marlon Humphreys, Denzel Ward, big for the Browns. Now, let's keep the ship going. Next game, Miami going up to the Buffalo Bills. What say you, my friend?
This is make or break it time for Miami, man. I know Tua got injured and he was out for, the month or so. So it sucks, but you lost games, but then he comes back last week. You can't lose that game at home to the Cardinals. Like, I know it was on a last-second field goal to win the game, but there's just no excuse. You cannot lose that game, especially given your record. And it's kind of ironic. This is the game earlier this year where Tua actually went out, but you remember leading up to that Thursday night game, all the talk was, the Bills have had Miami's number. And, like, if we want to be serious, win the AFC East, this is the game we got to win. And I think that's part of the reason Tua took off running, because he'd been playing bad up until that point, so he felt forced, pick up the first down and try to truck Hamlin. But they're on the road in Buffalo. I don't know what the weather is, but, we're now in November. I would assume it's relatively cold. If it's, I think, what is it, under 70 degrees, Tua's record is like 6-13 or something like that. I just don't have really any confidence. I think it could be a close game. But Bills are laying 6, so, I wouldn't necessarily take the 6. But I just don't have any faith in Tua being able to win this game on the road at Buffalo, given the history of the matchup. And
50 degrees.
50 degrees. Yeah. See that? And it sucks because 50 degrees is really nothing, but the fact that it's 50 degrees just makes me even.
Dude, you're a Houston guy, man. Dude, you'd be freezing your ass off.
I got some Kansas roots in me, so cold doesn't bother me too much.
Freezing your butt off, man.
But yeah, 50 degrees for Tua is like the whole world is collapsing, and it sucks that that's the way. But they also paid him this offseason when I didn't feel they had to do it, but they did it. And now it's like, you're stuck. I don't think McDaniels is necessarily as great of a coach as we thought. Yeah, I just don't have any confidence in Miami to pull this one off. But if there was any time to do it, Bills coming in riding high off the blowout last week versus Seattle, maybe you catch them slipping. You said Amari Cooper is out. So they don't have, a wide receiver one go get it guy besides Shakur, but he's not really a wide receiver one. This is the time to do it, Miami. Like if Miami loses a game, you go to 2-6. You're already more than likely not making the playoffs, but you got to win this one.
Yeah, this is the time Miami's got to step up and do something. This is their season. I will say this: my bet for them not to making the playoffs, looking great. I absolutely love it. In terms of sides, I did nothing in terms of sides here. I just did a player prop.
Same.
HN over 35.5 yards receiving. Bills giving up the most receiving yards to opposing running backs. 3 of the last 4 running backs the Bills have faced have gone over this total. The only one who didn't was Tony Pollard, who got concussed, who had he had 3 targets, 2 receptions when he went out. So he was in line for it. When we look in it, HN on the Fins for the season, 3rd in targets, 2nd in reception, 4th in yards, 7 for 69 last game against the Bills. Averages with Tua as the quarterback. Got to break up the stats here. 7.3 targets, 6.7 receptions, and 65 yards. Give me HN here over the 35.5. In terms of side, dude, nothing to do with this game. Next game.
I love that.
Next game, we are going to the Chargers and Browns. And guess what this is?
Me ask this, you ain't catch that. I can't pass this. Shooter, stay strapped. I don't need mine. Bro.
Bryce's best bet. Bryce, tell us why this is your best bet of the day, my friend.
Okay, so I don't know all the viewers watching how if they, tune into our podcast, but this year I've been doing my little LJ's ladder where I give my weekly rankings. And this week I had a run called Reinvigorated Unk Ball, and it was the Colts and the Browns. The Colts, of course, bench Richardson going to Flacco, and the Browns, which I thought they should have benched Watson in favor of Winston, but because of his contract, they weren't doing it. But with the injury, Winston steps in. If you watched the Browns last week, and honestly, if you just watched the pregame, postgame, whatever interview Jameis is, just watch that just for comedy purposes. But that team just looks completely rejuvenated and, like they have life again. Like the team genuinely looked excited to be out there playing football. Whereas with Deshaun Watson, anybody could tell that he completely lost that locker room. The team had zero faith in him to, bring them winning football plays at the quarterback position. With Jameis Winston, yes, there is the possibility that he could have one of those Jameis games where he might throw for 300, but he might give you 3 interceptions. But I think just him being back in the lineup, I think Chubb being back his third game back healthy, which I actually have a bet for Nick Chubb over 1.5 receptions. That's a line he's cleared at 70% rate for his career. He hasn't been able to clear it these first 2 games, but he should be able to get I think a decent amount of targets because they should be facing some pressure from the Los Angeles Chargers defense. So that means, quarterback dumping the ball off more. I just think the Browns are in a prime position right now. Their backs are against the wall. I think Stefanski is a much better play caller with Jameis at quarterback than Deshaun Watson. I think that defense is still really good. You said Denzel Ward has been announced as active today. So that's going to be, big for them because the Chargers don't have wide receivers as is. So he can essentially shut down one side of the field. And I think the Chargers are like one of the most like up and down teams week to week. They started off the year 2-0, then they dropped 2 games. Then they won a game, lost a game, won a game, lost a game. I just think last week after, bouncing back versus the Saints are in a real good team right now. They won that game. But the week before that, they lose to the Cardinals on Monday night. I think headed into Cleveland with the rejuvenated Cleveland team at home, I think it's going to be really hard for Herbert and that offense to get things going. And I like the Browns as, I think they were started off as plus 2.5. Went down to plus 1.5. I think it's still flown between plus 1, plus 1.5. But I like them ML plus money. I like them.
Look, I'm sitting this one out. I have too many games. What if I were to bet it? I would bet the Browns here. I think Dobbins is going to start to break down a little bit. He looks insanely slow. You mentioned the Winston factor. Locker room, the guys just seem a little bit more active. Offensive line is getting healthy. West Coast team traveling East Coast. Earlier start. I would lean that one here. Now, we are to the Washington Commanders at the Giants. And I'd like before we start this, I'm going to ask you a trivia question. The last team to start 9-9 going for it on 4th down was what team?
Is it something that happened recently or is it farther back?
Farther back.
Okay, because recently I would have went with your Lions.
You were born. That you know what this you were alive when this happened, so it's not like a crazy stat. You were alive when it happened.
AFC or NFC? And this is my last question for I guess.
NFC.
NFC. NFC.
I'll give you another hit. The team's no longer around.
Oh, so is it like they're around, but they moved cities? Is that what you're saying, or?
Yeah, they moved cities.
Oh, is it St. Louis Rams?
St. Louis Rams, 2004. 2004 St. Louis Rams.
I was trying to think of high-power offenses back then that would have had the guts to go for it. It was going to be them, or I was thinking maybe Carolina in 2004, possibly when they went to the Super Bowl.
I have a bet here. Tell us what you think of this game.
Honestly, man, and I don't know. I sent this to my parents for them to tune in, so I don't know if my dad is watching, but he's a Commanders fan, and so he's been on me because I haven't had them high up in my little ladder rankings. And of course, last week he was outside watching the game in his man cave, and that Hail Mary comes off. He comes in the house yelling, going ballistic. And like I don't know, like I want to trust them, but I just still can't trust the Commanders. But they seem good, and I think they're gonna be a playoff team. I think they have a really good chance to win the NFC East. But I just feel like the pass defense isn't that great, which is why it was kind of puzzling with some of Chicago's play calling last week to not exploit that. But I think this game we're gonna see, like, it's funny. I've been seeing something on Twitter where it's like Daniel Jones will play like complete garbage, confirming for everybody like who he is as a player. And then the moment you jump on that bandwagon, like, oh, Daniel Jones is horrible, like get rid of him. The next week he balls out for whatever reason. It's like we know that's not Daniel Jones really is, but he does it. And I just feel like this week at home, their backs are against the wall. 2-6 divisional opponent. I feel like Dayball and company will have some stuff drawn up, and I think Daniel Jones is going to play one of his better games of the year today. For whatever reason, I just have that weird feeling that that's what's going to happen. And I think Neighbors is also going to have a pretty big game too. So
I gave this one out on my show, which Bryce and the rest of his crew are going to be the special guest this Tuesday night. I'll be on his Tuesday night beforehand. We'll tell more about that at the end of the show. I gave out the Giants here at 3.5. It's ticked up to 4 at some shop. Yeah. Jones is a dog, 3.5 or more, 58% against the number. Bull is a dog, 60%, 3.5 or more, 70%. Quinn as a favorite, 39. On the road, 31. This Commanders team is due for some serious regression. I mentioned that 9 for 9. That's due to come down. That is the best in the league. It's been over 20 years since someone was this good going for it. They're due for some regression. They have scored 68% of the time they have crossed the 50. The next highest is the Ravens at 50%. Look, is their offense good? Yes. Is their offensive line playing good? Yes. But that success isn't sustainable.
It's not.
It's going to drop down a little bit. They literally just won on the walk-off Hail Mary. This is the spot of spots to fade them. Now let's look at the Giants. One of the most, I mentioned that site I look at, one of the most unluckiest teams. They lost Monday night on a punt return TD when their punter was literally tackled, and it should have been roughing the punter, not called. Against the Bengals, they lost because Joe Burrow, who is Mr. Mobile quarterback, as we all know, had a 50-yard touchdown run. A Moss fumble went right through a Giants player's legs. If they had a healthy kicker, they would have beaten the Commanders the first time these guys played. Commanders, great start to start the season on the offensive line, but this Giants defensive line is sneaky good. Per PFF, they have the best pass rush. And Lawrence on their defensive line leads the league in double teams. So if he's being double teamed, that's going to open up some lanes for
Brian Burns
and crew. Daniels struggled last time they played. Last 4 games, Banks, the Giants DB, has been shadowing opponents' wide receiver ones. Just listen to these numbers. George Pickens, 4 for 74. A.J. Brown, 5 for 89. Jamar Chase, 5 for 72. DK Metcalf, 4 for 55. That's 4.5 receptions, 72.5 yards per game. That's an elite level. 3 of the 4 I just mentioned, we can have an argument that are the best 5 best 3, top 5, whatever, wide receivers in the game. Banks is maturing into that elite D-back in front of our eyes, and it's not getting any cred. I think he's going to be able to limit McLaurin. The Commanders' defense, especially the back 4, is rough. I don't understand opposing teams' game plans. Coaches, I don't know if they're scared because of what Quinn did in Seattle, what he did in Dallas. This back 4 just isn't that good. And I think the Bulls, seeing them for the second time, he's going to say, you know what? We're going to throw the ball. We're going to attack it. And I agree with you. I think Neighbors is going to eat teams that have lost 3 straight and 3 straight ATSs, like the Giants, 56% against the scenario. Same number when they're at home, 60%. Same scenario at home and home dogs, 64%. home divisional dog, getting over 3. Giants defensive line against the Commanders offensive line advantage. The Banks factor plus just a great situational spot to fade the Commanders. Give me the Giants here. I got it at plus 3.5, my friend.
I like it. I think that game they played earlier, that was the one game where the Commanders won on all field goals. So if there's ever a game for some regression on not getting touchdowns at a 68% clip, scoring, like, maybe that Giants defense has the recipe.
And if the Giants had a kicker, that was a game their kicker got hurt. If they had a kicker, they win that game. Like, literally, if they have a kicker, they win that game. Next game, my friend, we have the Jags going to the Eagles. And you know what? This is for my best bet. Now, granted, my video wasn't as cool as your video. I felt your video was a little cool. My video was a little quicker. My best bet today is A.J. Brown over 77.5 yards receiving. If something ain't broke, we're not fixing it.
Don't fix it.
Jags, 24th in coverage per PFF. DVOA has them 30th defending the pass, defending wide receiver ones. They are 20th. Jags run man 40% of the time, second most in the league. PFF has Brown as the highest graded player against man coverage and leading the league 5.52 yards per route against man. Brown has gone over this total in all 4 games he's played, averaging 102 yards per game. His worst game this year is 5 for 84. Look, my only bet this game, give me Mr. Brown over 77.5 yards receiving.
So I actually got a bet on this game too. It was one of my official podcast plays, but I have a site too. And so as far as luck under goes, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they've been involved in games that average a total expected score of 44, with Philly's games even lower expected score of 40 points. Jacksonville missing Christian Kirk today, and also Brian Thomas Jr. is probably going to be out for a couple of weeks. And that added with Jacksonville is actually really good run defense, and that seems to be what Philly's trying to get back to with Saquon and Jalen Hurts. Total set at 46.5. Jacksonville, I don't expect them to be putting up a lot of points, especially if they can't throw the ball to, Christian Kirk or Brian Thomas. Philly's secondaries actually looked really good the last couple of weeks. Who is playing wide receiver for the Jags besides Gabe Davis? I expect, if anything, Evan Ingram's going to probably be receiving a lot of Trevor Lawrence.
Under on targets 35.
Yeah, from Trevor Lawrence. So I got the under at 46.5. I think it's moved down to 46 now. So even the half point makes me feel pretty good about that. But I expect this one to probably finish around a 20-17 or 17-14. Doug Peterson's first time back at Philly since, being there years ago. I expect his players to probably play a little bit harder for him possibly in this one. But yeah, I just expect this one to go under given their total luck unders on the season and then the injury status of some key players coming into the game.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence he has to be looked as one of the biggest busts in the history of the league. As much as no one wants to say it, he is. We literally need to have that discussion.
His draft pick is the only reason he's even still playing now. They gave him that
big contract. As much as Jerry gets crap about that contract to Lawrence, why did we give Trevor Lawrence his big contract?
There's nothing saying he should have. I saw someone joke. It said, "Are we sure it wasn't Trevor Lawrence holding Urban Meyer back?" That one.
Yeah, that was my tweet. That was my tweet. Next game, we have the Chicago Bears traveling out to Zona. Game is basically a pick. Cards laying 1, Bears 1, going back and forth. What say you, my friend, here?
I'm staying away from this one, but I have an interesting fact. Do you know the last time the Cardinals won 2 games in a row?
There was that year where they started out 7-0, and they made the
2021.
Yeah,
and they now won 2 games in a row last week, and then the week before that against the Chargers. Bears coming off, like I said, that tough Hail Mary loss. I'm still not sold on the Bears. I think they got a lot to prove still too, because they've only really beaten up on some pretty bad teams. But if I had to bet, I would bet the Bears, because 3 years without winning 2 games in a row, and then you finally do that now. I don't expect the Cardinals to win 3 games in a row, and I expect the Bears to come out swinging today, especially given how last week ended for them. I know they got a salty taste in their mouth, losing the way they did at home. I think they should come out strong, and that's where I would lean towards. But like I said, I'm gonna stay away from it because I truly don't know. The Cardinals have won me some money this year, and they've lost me some money this year. They're just kind of an up and down team. But once I've learned that side, I was like, yeah, I wouldn't put money on them winning a 3rd game in a row if they weren't able to win 2 in a row for the last 3 years. So that's where I would lean for this one.
My thought process is I took the Cards here -1, and this game is going to see if the Bears have the leadership problems that we all think that they do. We saw how Williams acted on the sidelines. I mean, look, I get it. He's a young player. We've seen other young players in that position at quarterback handle it better. We've also seen other young players at the quarterback position, fathers, not put a tweet out about coaching and then delete it. Eberflus throwing players underneath the bus. I think there's no leadership there. I think this is where the Bears season is going to kind of implode. Williams, in my eyes, I wasn't a Williams guy, and I don't think he's as good as people think he is. Since 2017, there's been 2 quarterbacks that within their first 7 starts had 3 games where they had a QBA ranking of 60 or less. So think of all the quarterbacks, all the shitty quarterbacks since 2017. There's only been 2 of them that have done this. The first, Zach Wilson.
That's not good company to be in.
The second, Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
Teams traveling from a road game on the East Coast to a road game on the West Coast the following week, 41% ATS. How the Bears going to stop Murray on the ground, 52 yards last week for Daniels with Murray and experience. I think Murray's a little bit of a better mobile quarterback than Daniels. Bears struggle defending the tight end. And look, as no one's going to admit it, and no disrespect to your boy Travis, Trey McBride's the best tight end in the game right now. He is going to light that up. He has yet to score a touchdown. You get plus 210 for him to score a tutty. I'd definitely look at that bet too. Can the Bears you can run on the Bears. Connors is going to be able to get his. This is going to open up stuff for McBride, Wilson, and what's his face? Harrison. Also, I watched the All 22. DJ Moore and Keenan Allen legitimately quit running routes. They just bailed out. DJ Moore, who is their best wide receiver, is insanely frustrated about Williams not getting him the ball. And there's a lot of underlining issues in that locker room. I think this is where we see everything come tumbling down. I'll take the Cards here -1.
So do you think, because I saw something last week, I believe, and it could just be a rumor, a lot of rumors float around online nowadays, but it said something like Ben Johnson genuinely wanted Chicago's job. And I know you have that funny fact or stat about the coach has to be I think Catholic or go to
Saturday Night Mass. But
yeah.
Johnson's smart. He's just not going to go after anything. And I really feel like watching the Commanders, they're setting it up for Kingsbury to be a coach. And I think Kingsbury is the one that goes there. Because when you see what he has that connection with Williams, and he, obviously Daniels is doing well. I don't know with Ben Johnson, sometimes loyalty can be your worst nightmare. And he's so loyal to Campbell. I don't know if he'd take a job in the division. You know what I mean? I don't know if we do that. I
get it. Commanders have been good this year. If Chicago genuinely went and got Cliff Kingsbury after this year, they just ruined Caleb Williams' career. I still don't believe in Cliff Kingsbury as a coach. And I think one of the reasons Commanders are so good is because he's just much better in the offensive coordinator role. Just worry about the offense. Yeah. Managing team, we've seen him fail at the college level and the NFL level. And then, granted, the offense looks good right now for the Commanders, but he went back to USC, and Caleb Williams had his worst year.
Yeah,
So like if they go back and do that, that's gonna be hilarious to me. I'm still not a
I'm telling you.
Kingsbury believer.
I'm telling you, it's setting up for it. Next game, we have the Rammies going to the Seahawks. What say you, my friend?
Hey, I don't like the news about Puka going down in practice, but it seems that he's still going today.
Yep.
But I put my bet in before that news even came out, so that's probably just on me if it does end up killing me. But I like the Rams here. I think coming into the year, I thought the Rams were really good, and I thought they were in contention for possibly being in the playoffs that final weekend for the NFC Championship. Obviously, they've gotten hit by the injury bug pretty bad. But last week, you seen them with the healthy Cooper Kupp and Puka coming back versus the Vikings on Thursday night, and they just looked really good. That offense looked like they picked up right where they started off at. And I just think Seattle, I'm not a fan of Seattle. I think if the Rams can jump on them, I think Gino will start pressing. I don't know. I haven't heard. Or did you mention DK? If they come up with news with DK,
He's already been ruled out.
he's already been ruled out. So yeah, that
He's
makes
already dust in the wind.
yeah, that makes me feel even better. Without DK, Geno Smith is really bad, and so yeah, I just like the Rams here. They're 3-4, and this is a divisional game. The whole division 4-4, except the Rams, who have their bye already at 3-4. This is probably the biggest game of the year so far for them, because if they win this, they can literally be first place in the division. As funny as that sounds, at 4-4. Sean McVay versus rookie head coach McDonald. I think Sean McVay should thrive here and outcoach him completely. I think Rams go on the road and handle business on this one. So I got them at 1.5.
Yeah, I like the Rams here. The reason I'm not betting this is I took the Rams. I gave this one out on my show to make the playoffs at plus 330. Now, obviously, this is a game they need to win for this to come true. Seahawks offensive line has issues. No DK. How is this offense going to look? Walker, he's had 20 touches once, and that was that week one. After that, he has not gone over 14. Seahawks have some issues in the back four. Smith, if Smith's pressing and there's no DK and these young guys from the Rams front have been great, I don't think that's going to be a recipe for success. Seahawks DBs have been struggling, and I just think they're just going to be able to move the ball. I like the Rams here, but I'm not betting it because I got the plus 330 and I need this one. And to go back a little bit, sometimes these coaches, I just wish they'd realize, hey, you know what? I have it pretty good where I am. You know, like you look at your boy, who's the Chiefs DC?
Steve Spagnuolo.
He partnered up with Reed. You know, if he wanted to be a head coach, he could be a head coach somewhere. But he's kind of like, you know what? I'm good here, man. You know, Reed and I have a good thing here, good thing going. You know, it's obviously a highly stressed job, but it's not as stressful. And I kind of wonder if that's what Mike McDaniel's thinking. Like, why didn't I just stay in Baltimore? You know what I mean? Like, I had a good thing going there. I wish that more coaches would do that. Off to the game of the day, my Detroit Lions going up to Green Bay. What say you, my friend?
I think they said Jordan Love is gonna give it a go with that groin injury. I expect this one. I think this is another game. It's basically gonna come down to who has the ball last. But like if Jordan Love has the ball last, I could see him throwing an interception to end the game rather than driving him down and win the game. I can see both. I want to get your thoughts on this one because I know this one is basically for the division lead right here at this point in the season. Obviously, the Vikings have taken a bit of setback, and then Chicago, you know, still on the bottom, even though they have a good record as well. 12 mile per hour wind and rain in Green Bay today. Okay, so I mean that means it's a running football game. Hey, Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery, the best 1-2 punch in the league. Literally make it to the point where Jared Goff sometimes doesn't even have to do anything. The fact it's at Lambeau, it's going to be a tough place to go in and get a win, especially given the circumstances. But I kind of would lean y'all. I like y'all here in this spot today, especially with Jordan Love still kind of banged up. I honestly think because he's gotten paid this year, and you know he still, you know, he got paid, but people are like, oh, he still has to prove something. I think that's why we're seeing him try to battle back from so many injuries, and I think that's going to end up hurting him in the long run because you go from the MCL knee injury, and I'm not a doctor, so I'm not saying this is why, but I think he came back a bit early from the MCL sprain, and then your body's overcompensating. Now he pulled his groin on what looked like an ordinary play, and it's like your body is banged up. Like rest for whatever reason. LaFleur is doing just well with Malik Willis. Like, so if that's the case, like just go with Malik Willis and let Jordan Love genuinely get healthy so you can make a playoff push. But they're gonna trot him back out there, and if you guys can get pressure on him a bit, how mobile is he today? Because that groin that's a tough injury to deal with.
I think we're seeing how good of a coach LaFleur actually is. He took Malik Willis and made him a starter. He's responsible for 3 of their wins. What he's doing is absolutely insane. And look, I gave this one out on my show. Now, obviously, the line has moved. On my show, I gave out the Packers plus 3.5. I say it every week, buying low, selling high. Teams that just won by 36 points or more, 40% against the number. When we look at the box score of the Lions game, Titans won that game. More first downs, more total plays. 191 more yards per play, almost 4 times more passing yards. Goff, you mentioned it earlier, 12 of 15, 85 yards. Lions had over 200 yards in return yards, and the Titans threw 2 INTs in the red zone. And also, quick shout out to my boy Woods for not scoring that touchdown for Green Bay last week. So my Jags plus 4 was able to hit. Packers dominated that game. Dominated the game. Wasn't even close. I'm a little confused by the metrics on the Lions defense. PFF has them as the 3rd best coverage team. DVOA has them as the 4th best defense, but they've given up the 4th most passing yards. I feel that Hutchinson was able to band-aid the back force issues. Now, not even being able to get to the QB, they aren't generating the pass rush. QBs have more time to dissect the back 4. Lions don't have the DBs to cover the Packers wide receivers. I don't trust the Lions will be able to stop Josh Jacobs. They allowed 158 yards to the Titans, 117 yards per game since Hutchinson's injury. Goff, 41% ATS on the road as a starter. His stats insanely down on outside games. LaFleur as a dog, 69%. Home dog, 70%. I just think the spots and the trends are telling me to bet the Packers, but I'm going to say this. At this line, under a field goal, just don't do it. There's going to be so many live betting opportunities in this game. Next game, we are at the Sunday night game, last one on the slate. Colts at the Vikings. What say you, my friend?
Staying away from this one. I like Joe Flacco starting today. Obviously, they look like a much better offense when he's, behind center. Throw for 300 yards, I believe, the last time he came out for them. But he's going up against a Brian Flores defense. The Vikings have kind of gone on a little slide here. Sam Darnold's kind of come back to earth. I expect Brian Flores to send, those exotic blitzes at an old, immobile Joe Flacco. How he can handle that, I don't know. It's Vikings home game too. So I think honestly, I would lean Vikings because I just think whatever's going on in the Colts locker room and their front office and stuff right now is just a lot of commotion. Like I get, Anthony Richardson hasn't been playing well, and you were actually commenting on our live last week when we were talking about it. Like, yeah, he probably lost a bit of the locker room with the comment about him being tired. That's crazy to say, crazy to hear. I don't know how you bounce back from that, but at the same time, the dude is 10 games in, and everybody knew he was a project quarterback. Putting in Joe Flacco, I feel like while it might look better offensively speaking, I don't know if it's going to always produce wins. And at that point, it's like you're fighting for a wild card spot with Joe Flacco to lose in the first round. What does that necessarily get you or gain you? I don't know. So if they come out today and, Joe Flacco loses, it's very comical for the Colts franchise because you benched your project guy that you spent a top 5 pick on to go with this 36-year-old quarterback who's on his way out the league, and you're still losing games. Like, what'd you do it for? Because now you've disrupted the whole locker room chemistry at that point. And so, yeah, I just expect Brian Flores to dial it up, and maybe that could pay dividends. But I'm staying away from this one.
I have 2 bets in this game. First bet, Michael Pittman Jr. over 51.5 yards receiving. I don't know if you remember this, but a couple games ago, Pittman was hurt going on IR. And then all of a sudden it was announced that Flacco was going to be playing. And now he's like, okay, I'm good. I'm in. Put me in, coach. He is averaging 61 yards in games that Jersey Joe Flacco starts. The weakness of the Vikings defense is the middle of the field. He leads the team in targets with Flacco. We saw St. Brown, Puka just attack that middle of the field. That's where Jersey Joe is going to be throwing the ball, and that's where Pittman lives. I kind of feel that the playbook is also out on the Vikings team. Quick screen passes, run the ball to set up the pass. Also, you put your wide receiver in motion against the 5-man front, and he clips the pass rusher on the outside of the tackle. Colts have one of the best offensive lines in the game. They're going to be able to give Flacco time. And when we look at this Flores defense this year, which has been great, the young quarterbacks that they've faced have struggled.
Yeah.
Goff took advantage, was able to dissect it. Stafford able to dissect it. Flacco, who's going to be out there in his walker, he's going to be able to dissect this Flores blitz scheme. Also, Taylor's back there. If you're able to run the ball on a blitzing team, that's going to hold the blitz. DeForest Buckner is back. This is going to help the Colts against that Vikings offensive line, which had to trade for Cam Robinson, who's coming up from Jacksonville, who wasn't even starting for the Jags, who offensive line isn't that good because Darisaul's out for the year. So I think the Colts are going to be able to get pressure on Dalton. Dalton struggles when facing pressure. And look, my favorite word in betting is what? Margin. I do not trust Sam Darnold to win with margin, especially margin over a field goal. So that is that. Now we have our Boom Fantasy Bets, our ticket, our parlays, or whatever they're called. Bryce is one. Bryce, you have this 3-teamer. Why don't you tell everyone what it is, my friend?
All right, so I got Tyreek Hill under 77.5 reception yards. Now, if you guys haven't known, you can go back to his games even when he was a part of my Chiefs. In 8 games versus the Buffalo Bills in the regular season, Tyreek Hill has gone over 77 reception yards once. For McDermott has the recipe to slow him down. And obviously, with Tua back in the lineup, priority is shutting down Hill, seems to shut down that offense. So I'm going to go under here. Expect that to hold true once again. Drake May over 197.5 passing yards. Look, from what I've seen of this kid play, if he's starting and he plays the whole game, if they're going to keep putting his number under 200 yards, I'm going to take it every time because he's cleared that both games he started and he looks really good doing it. And then Joe Burrow, for every reason I talked about earlier when we touched on Cincinnati versus Las Vegas. Backs against the wall, I think Las Vegas exerted everything they had last week versus the Chiefs. Joe Burrow here is going to have his best game, especially given the fact his defense isn't that great. Las Vegas defense isn't that great. I don't know who they have to stop Jamar Chase. I expect Joe Burrow to have one of those vintage 3-touchdown, 4-touchdown games, and it'll be on if his defense can get a stop here or there while they keep running up the score versus Las Vegas. So all 3 of those on a slip together, and that's my Boom Fantasy slip for NFL Week 9.
My Boom Fantasy is I did HN over 40.5 yards receiving. As I mentioned, the Bills really do struggle defending running backs in the passing game. Also, with Mozart being healthy, we could see HN line up as a slot wide receiver. Olave, I said you had to pick the guy you think who's going to go off against the Panthers with no Shaheed. I think it's going to be Olave. McBride, 56 yards over under for the best tight end going against the Bears defense, which struggle in the middle of the field. I mentioned I like the Cowboys. The CeeDee Lamb prop was a little too high. I think for the Cowboys to win, you're going to have to throw the ball. So I like that to go over the 268.5. And I literally just mentioned the Pittman, my reasoning why I think he's in line for a good game. Guys, go to Boom Fantasy, use promo code ETOFT21. Or Bryce, what is your promo code?
INISPOD.
use one of those promo codes. It helps us out. Real quick, Hill is waiting to start that porn star life. Yeah, he is. He is. Bryce, I'd like to thank you for coming on, taking time out of your day to fill in and co-host this with me. Always a pleasure talking to you. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you, when your podcast and stream and everything come out?
Yes, you can find us at INISPOD, I Need It Sports Podcast. We're doing live shows every Tuesday night at 8. And Erik mentioned it a little bit at the beginning of the podcast, but for all y'all still viewing, this week we'll be doing a special 2-part, podcast. Erik's going to come on to ours at 8. We'll go live. We're going to recap week 9, some of these bets we've touched on and everything. And then we're actually going to hop off of our podcast and move on to his at 9 o'clock. And we're going to talk NBA over there. We've been planning this for a couple weeks.
NFL is mine. NFL.
Oh, NFL. So
yeah.
NFL and NBA on ours. My fault.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna be touching on everything. I think this will be the first time I know I come on to Erik's podcast, but you'll get to see some of my other podcast members as well, so we could chop it up with Erik about football. And we haven't got a chance to talk to him since this season has started, but I know there's a lot to talk about with everybody's teams. You got Texans fan, Eagles fan, and Cowboys fan, my other partners. And so it's always a good time when we hop on with Erik and chop it up about ball. But yeah, follow us there. Like I said, live every Tuesday night at 8. You can follow us there on Twitter, YouTube, same thing. We tweet out all of our plays Thursday afternoon for that week ahead. And then also we are now partnered with the company called Moneyline Go. You'll find that on our Twitter as well. We have a little subscription for extra plays we drop because we just dropped 3 official plays each for the week. But then we drop more plays on our Moneyline Go. It's $1 subscription. We're not looking to, try to make bank off people, but just something, to try to provide more winners for our viewers and our people who support us. And we've been doing really well on there. I think we're up 30 units so far on the season between the 4 of us, which is pretty good considering it's 4 different people making all of their own bets. So can't complain there.
Awesome. Make sure to check that out on Tuesday. I am really looking forward to it. I'm going to have to brush up on my NBA knowledge. And we had an NBA question about the Embiid stuff. Going to have to tune in Tuesday night, man. Going to have to tune in Tuesday night to hear what we have to say about that. Bryce, best of luck in your bets, and I'll talk Tuesday, my friend.
See you Tuesday.